We're singing. We're singing. Time to talk.
Jopari.
Beauty and the Bitch.
Morgan.
Oh, coming into you live, it's Maury Messi in the house.
What?
You know, Maury Messi. I'm like Morgan Messick, but I live like in Maury's Austin instead of Morgan's Austin. It's the same thing, but you got to cut a little portal to get to it.
Okay, so what you're telling me is, one, you're an interdimensional witch, which I'm into. Okay,
Right.
I'm into that.
Right.
Two, you have adopted a new and, might I say, awful nickname.
Oh, it's your girl.
Maury Messi in the house. No. Girl, no. Maury Messi is not going to happen, so just let it go.
It's a true friend who really tells you, but somebody really needs to tell these motherfuckers in the subtle knife.
Girl, look at you transition into topic. Wow.
It's a professional.
You know what? As a thank you, I am going to call you Maury Messi from now on. I'm going to do as you ask.
Blessings. Thank you so much.
So obviously we're making fun of John Parry's ridiculous nickname of Jopari in The Subtle Knife.
It's a fantastic name. I don't know what the problem is.
You know what I will tell you is I don't ever think of him as John Parry. I do think of it as Jopari. I'm looking through my notes and I wrote Jopari every single fucking time.
Well, he got you.
He got me with that Maury Messi bullshit. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Beauty and the Bitch. I'm Mick Mark. No, it doesn't work for me for my name.
It's okay. You'll get there. And I'm Maury Messi.
Trash.
Trash. I'm trash. That's who I am.
And today we were talking about the second book of his Dark Materials trilogy, The Subtle Knife, which really, I should have just gone with you on that amazing transition and just started talking about it. We should have just skipped the intro because it was such a masterful transition, Morgan, honestly.
Thank you so much for acknowledging what you did wrong and what I did right. It really means a lot to me. And I am excited to talk about The Subtle Knife because I haven't reread it in a long time, but back in the day, it was my favorite book of the series, and I think that it introduces a lot of bananas shit. Like, it's a bananas book, and it leads into an even more bananas finale.
Absolutely. Well, oh gosh, you just gave me so many things to talk about. Well, first of all, you're right that it's bananas. I mean, we even talked about before this episode, we were like, should we do a recap? And we decided no, because, girl, who has the time?
It's very confusing. They introduce a lot of new people and a lot of new concepts. And like, the concepts are very, 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 very layered.
Absolutely. Okay, so you said that you read it a long time ago. Now, I'm not asking you to do a recap, but what do you remember just out of, like,
Sure.
What are some of the things that stuck out to you?
I think the biggest takeaways from The Subtle Knife is, I think the thing that people know about the series is that it has a lot of, like, religious equation and that it's anti-religion. And so you get a lot of that in the first book, and they kind of step it up in this book by assigning, like, literal symbolism from the Bible stories that most people know, like the story of Adam and Eve. And so they start assigning these character foils to the main characters of the book. And I think that adds a complexity, especially for young people, which this book is a YA book. So I think that's a really big component of this book that really builds up to the finale of angels and the fall of heaven and what that's all about. And then I think the second biggest takeaway is the introduction of Will as he's a secondary hero. I think he's just as important as Lyra. And so it's not just Lyra's story, it's their story. And then the third thing is the introduction of a new magical object, which is the subtle knife. So we got the alethiometer in the first book, and now we have the subtle knife, which is just a layered piece of magic, and also learning more about kind of like the multiverse, right? Like worlds on top of worlds.
Absolutely. Well, I thought that was really interesting. I mean, you said that things are layered. There are lots of foils and like contrast. What I found really interesting is that, the subtle knife, the power that it has, I guess, is that it can cut through anything, including the layers between worlds, right?
Yeah.
And so in this like one fell swoop with the subtle knife, he also opens up, I guess we already knew other worlds existed. In the first book, they like talked about it, but all of a sudden, like all these other worlds are like fair game,
Yeah, and that there's like, I think we've already talked about it in the first one, but like how there's this idea of like it's Lyra's Oxford, but there's a different version of that somewhere else, and that's such a big part of our pop culture zeitgeist with stuff like the Marvel universe and especially in like the Flash, which we had talked about previously. There's all these layers of Flash multiverses.
Absolutely. Every time the fucking Flash goes back in time, fucking sticks his dick in the timeline, something gets fucked up.
And he's always dicking around in the timeline. And every season they're like, never again. And then they do it.
Yeah. And half the time he just decides he wants to save his mom again. He does that shit over and over. It's like, girl, your mama is dead. I am so sorry. Move on. Anyway.
Yeah.
But you're right. But I think the introduction of all these alternate universes, multiple worlds, multiple Oxfords, I think that's why it was such a confusing book for me. I will say, though, you said it was your favorite. And, you are not alone in that. I went on Goodreads after I listened to this book, actually, via Audible, who's actually our sponsor for today's episode.
Yeah.
Audible.
Hi, Audible.
Taking you to worlds you've never imagined and can't understand. But I did listen to it on Audible, and I was confused, I would say, about a third of the time. I had to listen to chapters multiple times because I was like, where are we? What is happening? Who are these people? So I wasn't that big of a fan of this book, actually. And then, as I said, I went on Goodreads, and it is the highest rated of the 3 books on Goodreads.
That doesn't surprise me, only because I understand the problematic things from book 1 that people saw, and then the haters really come in on book 3, especially the religious haters.
Well, spoiler alert, God is dead. So, yeah, that makes, okay, actually, when you put it like that, it makes sense. But I thought, what I really didn't like about this book, and we're just going to get into it. You mentioned that we get this new protagonist, Will Parry, and Will is like the best. He's
the best.
He's the fucking best. He's awesome. Which I certainly don't have a problem with a character who is relatable and likable.
Yeah.
And like taking care of his like vaguely schizophrenic mom, which is like so heartbreaking.
Yeah. He's a bit of an everyman. Like, he is a bit of a superhero, but he's also got that everyman element where you're like, if I had to be in this world, be like Will.
Absolutely. And be around Will. If I can't be Will, I want to be with Will. Because
Yeah.
Will he's got that shit figured out, girl. He's like street smart, but he's kind and he's funny. And he's like, he loves cats. He's like super nice to cats.
Oh, the musical?
Sadly, no one likes the musical Cats but me.
Meg,
That's been well established.
you have been also busy and living under a rock. Did you see that they released a trailer for a live action movie of Cats, and the internet is not here for it?
You know what? It's so funny. The reason I do know about that is because the gays and my like sphere of podcasts and shit read it to filth.
Oh, the trailer is so, some of the funniest like headlines I saw was like, there are no horror movies worth seeing, and then it was like, cat, hold my beer, here we are.
Yeah.
Or like, Cat's Trailer. Like, everybody is like, this is not what you think it's gonna be. Like, they made this movie, and it's actually a horror film, and it's actually absolute trash, and it's one giant mushroom trip, and what is the point?
You know, there are two things I'm fucking sick of. The first is these live action musicals. They don't work. They're not popular. I really don't understand why people keep Morgan, you just texted me and said, "Can you get Eleanor? She's scratching at my door."
Oh, I meant to say Karen. I can't remember who I'm married to anymore.
Girl, I can't help you with your damn dog.
Eleanor was my child and not my dog.
Oh, no. I wouldn't judge you either way. I'm friends with you, not with your kid. No. No, but okay, so two things I'm fucking over. The first is these live action musicals. Girl, Rent was not good. I don't care if they cast Miss Valentina from RuPaul's Drag Race as Angel. It was not good.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, because you know they did the live action Rent not too long ago.
On TV or the...
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. That's what you're talking. I thought you meant like movie musicals, and I was ready to stand up for Les Miserables minus Russell Crowe. But yeah, you're right. Those TV ones are trash.
Yeah. Oh, is that what the Cats is gonna be? Is it gonna be one of those TV?
Oh, Cats is a full-length movie with like too big of a production.
Oh.
Starring famous people like Jennifer Hudson and other stars you may know.
Wow. Oh, okay. Well, I still hate those TV musicals. That doesn't change that fact. And the second thing I hate, which is actually evidently more related, are these fucking live action Disney remakes. Which,
girl, same.
Did you go see The Lion King yet? Starring Miss Beyonce?
And I won't go see it. And it honestly, the reviews I've heard are like, yeah, it's a thing that happened, but like people aren't. I mean, some people are impressed only because of nostalgia and because they're huge Disney fans, but other people are like, and the end is, what is the point of this movie?
Well, you know, I was listening to All Things Considered, which really I should stop just stealing their content, you know, but I'm doing it. And they reviewed the live action Lion King, and girl, they savaged it like it was a fucking wildebeest.
I think
they were lions.
Yeah. Yeah, they even said, like, even with really high profile musical people, they were like, the music was not impressive.
No. Well, and you know, they came for Beyonce directly. I don't know if you remember that part. Look, even though it's fucking NPR, I'm afraid of the Beehive, as I think all of us are, because Beyonce fans are too fucking much. And when they started being like, look, Beyonce's never been that great of an actress, do I agree? Quietly, yes, I do agree. But I was like, oh, y'all, don't say this. Don't do this.
Beyonce's a terrible actress. I think she is like, I think she's an excellent performer, and I think she's a really talented musical artist, but I think she is a horrible actress, and we always try to force acting upon people who don't need it. Like, she has an empire without being a shitty actress. She doesn't need that.
Well, and here's the thing. The reason that Beyonce's not a good actress, in my opinion, is because she's not good at being vulnerable, you know?
Yeah.
She's not a vulnerable person. Like, sometimes in her music, but that's like her like art, you know. But even that, I would say mostly she is more strong than she is vulnerable to me, you know. And because she's such a good performer, she's so obsessed with perfection, you know. And frankly, she gets very close to it. I've seen some performances, like Super Bowl performances and shit, where I'm like, oh my God, she is perfect in this moment. She's perfect. But that's not what you need to be an actress. You need to be a little bit more broken than she shows herself to be, I think.
I totally agree. And she comes from the background of rehearsing something to death to reach that perfection point. And you're right that acting is a little more malleable, and that's fine. It's fine that she's not good at acting, because as it turns out, she's one of the richest recording artists in the world. So guess what? She's going to be fine.
Exactly. It doesn't hurt her a bit. Beehive, do not come for us. Morgan said it, actually. Morgan said all of it.
I
So
stand by it. I stand by it.
I'm literally afraid. Anyway, but anyway, back to the subtle knife. After our not so subtle knifing of Beyonce's acting talent.
Oh, our podcast could be called The Tangent because
It could be. Well, it's only because we're both on very hard drugs. That's the reason, you know. What listeners don't see is we're both actually covered in shit as well. We shit ourselves while we do the podcast.
it just makes it easier so you don't have to get up.
Exactly, so we can focus on what's important. Children's fantasy.
Whatever.
Anyway, okay, so but actually back to the soul knife. So Will Parry, yeah, he's amazing. Here's the problem though. Fucking Lyra sucks in book 2.
Yeah.
I found it infuriating because she's not like the best ever in book 1. Like she's
Right.
just a person. But in book 2, she is so privileged. She's relatively useless. And I just did not, I still don't understand why he chose to write her with such an unflattering characterization.
Yeah, it's interesting. She's definitely pretentious and at times a little cunty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which normally I think is a plus, you know. Well, it's like the thing that I think of that really stood out to me is it's when she and Will first meet in what's that fucking world? That abandoned world?
Sidagazi.
Yeah, exactly. They're in an alternate universe. Will and her are both there. And some shit's gone down before, but the story hasn't truly started yet. And he meets her in the kitchen. He finds her in the kitchen and of this like huge abandoned city. And so he's like decides to like fix food. And fucking Lyra's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make an omelet," which is okay, strange, but go ahead. And she's like, "Oh, in my world, I never do any of the cooking." And I was like, "Bitch, why did you even have to say that?" You know, like, and why did he make her say that? Like, why couldn't she have just been like, "That smells great," you know?
Yeah, they have a strange relationship, and I think over the course of especially book 3 that it gets better, and you like them together as like this duo more later, but she is hard to love in this book.
Well, in book 1, she's like crafty, right? She's like scrappy and a survivor, and she's kind of sneaky in her way, you know, like she seems more world-wise in book 1 than she does in book 2. Like when there is a character in this book who is so fucking disgusting. His name is Sir Charles Latrim. Do you remember him, Morgie?
Not particularly.
He's also known as Lord Boreal. And yeah. And I just think he is so gross. For one thing, now, it may be because I listened, to the audio version, but when he first sees her, they're in a museum. They're not in Città Zagati or wherever the fuck that is. They're in like back in, I think, her London, her Oxford, I should say. And they're like in a museum or something. Or no, you know what? I'm so sorry. See, this is why this book is confusing. They're in Will's world is where they are.
Yeah, because doesn't she like find a portal and like through?
Honey, I don't know. There are portals left, right, up, and down in this book.
Girl, they need to seal that shit up.
Yeah. This is like that old horror movie, The Cube or whatever. They're like, do you remember? Did you ever see that movie?
I didn't. I actually have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh. Well, it's like these people who wake up in this cube, and it's like if you go out the wrong face of the cube, it's like they're like booby traps and you die. I don't remember the point of the movie, but like there are as many portals in this fucking book as there are cubes in the Cube movie, girl. You ain't never gonna get out. But anyway, Sir Charles Latrim is like looking at her in this museum because oh shit, girl, I don't know. She's looking at some kind of damn thing, some rock or something. And it specifically says that he looks at her bare thighs. That was one thing I noticed.
Right.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, who's this fucking pedophile creeper coming up on Lyra at the museum while she's just trying to take in her rocks, you know? And then every time they describe him as smelling like, um, oh, he's got like a sickly sweet smell to him.
Ooh.
I don't know, it grosses me out. And then skipping ahead to near the end, we find out that he's got a daemon, and his daemon's like this black snake thing.
Gross.
And then old Miss Coulter, who we just can't leave behind, Miss Coulter's fucking golden-haired monkey is like masturbating his black snake demon.
Oh my god, why?
Do you remember that part? It is so fucking gross.
I don't. That's so upsetting.
I'm so horrified by it. It's near the end of this book, and obviously we're not really sticking to the plot here. We're just like talking about it, but it's near the end of the book, and Miss Coulter's trying to get some information out of him because he's like a minor antagonist the entire book, and she's seducing him and drugging him at the same time. And yeah, her fucking demon or daemon or whatever is like masturbating the snake while she's seducing him. It made me so fucking nauseous. I hate him.
She's a nasty bitch.
She's a nasty bitch, but at least she's pretty. And she don't be staring at young girls' thighs in museums. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's worse.
Anyway. Good God. What was even my point?
You were talking about how they got together, and basically Lyra sucks and Will is the best.
Yeah. And thank you so much. Well, for one thing, one of the things that Sir Charles Latcham does that makes him the minor antagonist of this book is he steals the allometer, or how do you say it? The golden compass. A lithiometer. Yeah. He steals the lithiometer from her at one point. And I was like, fucking Lyra, what are you doing? How could you let this creepy, stinky man steal like the most important thing in your life, you know?
Like the only thing that matters.
Literally the only thing that you have that is important at all besides your personhood, you know? I don't know. And there were a lot of moments like that in this book where Lyra just did something fucking stupid for no reason that seemed out of character. And then Will Parry would have to come along and, work with others to save her and make it right. And by the end of the book, I was like, this sucks. I really liked her in the first book, and I do not like her in the second at all.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, too, when I think of, like, strong female protagonists that I think are inspiring. I always forget about Lyra because in so many ways she's not that inspiring. And, like, it's weird, too, because she's the product of eventually at some point you find out who her parents are, and because it's kind of a part of the mystery, especially for book one, like she was an orphan, so she's the product of some just like trash people too, and then she grows up in this like sort of privileged secret society, and like she has a strange life, but she's hard to love, and so you don't think of her.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. I mean, maybe I'm like grasping at straws here, but does it seem a little bit misogynistic? I don't think that every female character, female protagonist has to be quote unquote likable. I mean, like I said earlier, I actually really like a character with a bit of cuntiness. That's really not a problem for me, you know? But doesn't it seem a touch misogynistic that Philip Pullman wrote Will Parry, who's like kind of perfect, and then he chose to make his female protagonist unlikable?
You're not wrong on all of those fronts. You're right that a woman shouldn't have to be likable to be like a strong female lead. But she's got to have something else, like charisma to die for or something. And I feel like Lyra's lacking in qualities that make her a person that you're like, I want to be that person for Halloween this year, or I want to be that person when I grow up. Like, she doesn't have a lot going for her besides also not being likable.
You know, speaking of Halloween costumes, one of the things I love about you is that you have worn that armored polar bear costume every day for
Your
years.
What's up, baby?
You look just like him, girl. Let me ask you, though, speaking of the alethiometer, I think I've asked you this in the past somehow. Maybe when we did that Book of Dust or whatever, but would you rather have the alethiometer or the subtle knife?
The subtle knife.
Really? And why?
Powerful magical object can get you in and out of places like safes at a bank, so you can be rich as fuck. And also, you can like escape a world in a pinch, and also you can use it to cut a bitch if he's trying to mug you. It's multi-purpose.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but let me counter with, if you have the alethiometer, and correct me if I'm wrong, one, couldn't you just be like, alethiometer, how do I break into this bank? And it'll give you like the right answer, right?
But it doesn't give you like 100% a straightforward answer, right? Doesn't it give you truth, but you still have to like figure it out?
I guess that's true. Yeah. Okay, well,
I just don't have time.
Well, point two, true or not true, couldn't you put the alethiometer in a fucking sock and twirl that shit around your head, and then you've got another great weapon?
You're so right. You're
right?
so
I mean, I'm all about knowledge and truth and whatever, and so I think I would want the alethiometer, but I wouldn't turn either of them down, though.
Sure. Yeah, I'd take either one. I think that, like, if you had the alethiometer, I think it would make you a lot less trusting of a person, and it would make you really, really rely on it, though. Like, you couldn't not use it in, like, every minute detail of your life, I bet.
Well, that's really fair. That's kind of like unintended consequence. But if you had the subtle knife, you probably over time would lose most of your fingers and toes.
Yeah, you probably would.
Because that shit be cutting through everything, girl. And you know I am drunk and clumsy. I cannot be trusted.
Well, they're both going to get stolen, though, according to the rules of this book series, so who cares anyway?
Yeah, right. Sooner or later, a stinky pedophile is going to steal it, so who cares?
Happens to everyone.
So, we haven't mentioned yet, there are a bunch of fucking witches in this book.
It's such a important introduction, but it's one of those details of the book series that gets super fucking lost over time because there's just too much information.
We meet like approximately 30,000 witches in this book alone. Because each of these like witch queens brings like her tribe or whatever, I guess. Yeah. So we met Serafina Pekkala in the last book, right?
Yeah.
But this is the first time we've ever met Ruta Scotty, right?
I don't even remember that person. So yeah.
You don't remember Ruta Scotty? Oh, bitch!
Who can keep up?
Okay, so Serafina Pekkala is in charge of the Boogie Boo witches of wherever, who cares? Uh-huh. And Ruta Scotty is like the witch queen of like, the fucking Hungarian witches or something. Again, it doesn't fucking matter. But Ruta Scotty is like the eldest. She's the oldest of all the witches, I think. And that bitch comes in and she is haughty. She is cunty. And she's not having it. Like, I don't know if you remember, you probably don't remember this since you don't remember her, but there's a throwaway part where someone's talking about Ruta Scotty to someone else. And they're like, no, girl, she's like a dangerous bitch. And the first person's like, didn't she like do something with tigers? And the second person's like, oh, girl, you don't even know. She found this tribe and they were rude to her. And so she went off and she killed their ancestral tiger gods. And now she wears those tiger teeth around her neck. And then that tribe of people who were rude to her, they lost their gods and their protection. And they were all sad and lonely. So then they tried to worship Ruta Scotty. And Ruta Scotty was like, well, your worship didn't do those tiger gods any favors. So I don't really care about you either. Fuck off and die. And they did.
I wish it always worked like that.
Girl, which part?
Where
Oh,
you say fuck off and die, and they do.
yeah. But then, you be having an emotional day and you start just slaying people at the grocery store and I don't know. It wouldn't be good for me. Maybe you could handle the power, but I'm much too emotional for all that. So Ruta Scotty is just like there, pretty much. And then she flies off ahead of everybody because at one point, I'm so sorry, listeners. It's actually good. If you haven't read this book, we can't really spoil it because we can't keep the shit straight. So it's actually perfect. But at one point, Ruta Scotty like flies ahead or some shit. And would you know that this bitch, when she returns, she flies back with some angels?
Girl, and angels, they just keep coming.
Angels don't give a fuck. Even more so than Ruta Scotty. They are beings of light. They do not really understand human beings. And furthermore, they don't give a damn.
Mm-hmm. And that's a commentary in itself.
Well, and yeah, now we start to get into like all the religious shit. So, one of the main subplots is Will Parry's looking for his dad. The perfectly named Jopari or John Parry. And actually, I think that Jopari is talking to some goddamn body. And I think it's the first time that we realize that Lyra's uncle is attempting to kill God. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so they talk about that?
Yes, they do. And I think it's the very first time we realize, what's his name? Lord something or other?
Azrael?
Oh, yes. Thank you, my friend. Yes, Lord Azrael. I think it's the first time that we actually know what his plan is. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we know that in book 1. Do we?
No, because we don't even know much about him at all. And then he, at the end of the book, does a horrible thing. And we're like, oh, he's a bad boy.
Oh, yeah. He'd be killing somebody. Uh-huh. Yeah, but that's how he opens up the hole that Lyra comes to into Sitagazi or wherever, right?
Yes, Sitagazi.
I'm just gonna call it Igazi because who cares? Yeah. So we find out in this book that the reason he's pulling all of these witches and these fucking armored bears and these such and such and this guy in a fucking balloon, like the reason he's pulling all these allies together and he's making these small children go get these very powerful magical items is so he can kill the authority or God in that universe. So I guess that is kind of a spoiler, but is it really? Because doesn't everyone know that that's like what this series is about?
I don't know what people's perception is, but I think it's, even if it's a spoiler, I think it's fine. It's fine.
Well, look, we started a new thing, listeners, where if it's going to be a spoiler-free episode, we're going to put no spoilers in the subtitle. And let me tell y'all, that's not in the subtitle of this episode.
Girl, no.
Because these books have been out for about 400 years. So, honey, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Speaking of Philip Pullman's misogyny, why is it that the witches are so emotional?
Oh, because they're women.
I think so, yeah. That shit pisses me off, girl. What?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I don't know. There are quite a few things. This is not my favorite series, which I think I've probably said in the last episode too. But I just don't understand why we don't, like, yeah, perfect characters are boring. And Serafina Peckle is pretty close to perfect. But there is a witch. Well, Ruta Scotty's not the best. But there's a witch named, I don't even know what her name is. Judah Kaminanin or something.
You made that up.
No, I did. I'm trying to read my own handwriting and these fucking made up names. But old Judah Kaminanin, or whatever her damn name is, she kills a man in this book because
he said she was fat.
More or less. I mean, he didn't even say she was fat. I think he nicely said, I think we're better as friends. And she nursed that hatred for like 20 or 30 years. And then the very first moment she saw him, she done stabbed him in the heart for telling her no. Which, let me tell you, consent is sexy whether or not you're a witch, you know.
Very interesting. And you know, we're coming up at some point on the 20th anniversary of you telling me that we'd be better as friends. And all I got to say is you better watch out.
Oh, don't Jopari me, bitch.
Girl.
More messy. More messy. Don't do it.
I can't help it. I can't help my emotions. I'm just a woman.
But you're not a witch, though, are you?
Oh, okay. Okay, girl. Maybe I got my Hogwarts letter. Don't.
Uh-oh. I'm going to be real pissed. If this is like a Julia Breakbill situation and all my fucking friends got to be witches and I'm just fucking around with crystals in my little bedroom, you might be the one getting stabbed in the heart, bitch. You better watch out.
Dude, you're right. That Julia is the most tragic character from that series, and not because the series of horrific things that happened to her, because she didn't get into magical college. That's why.
100%. And she's like one of the most talented of them, you know? So it's like so unfair.
Bullshit.
Well, and I think stabbing someone over magic and not getting to magic college is more understandable to me than stabbing someone in the heart because they don't love you, you know?
I guess on the scale of fairness, that tracks.
Well, I mean, seriously though, so we've got this plot where because she's a woman, well, because she's a witch specifically in this universe, but all witches are women in this His Dark Materials universe. At some point, after she stabs this man, apropos of nothing really, except his, you know, declining to be with her, someone else calls her out, and they're like, "Why the fuck did you do that, you stupid bitch?" And she's like, "Oh, it's about love. You wouldn't understand." And my thought is it really about love? Is that really what love is? I mean, I know there's a fine line between love and hate, and I surely do believe that. But like, I don't know. That just doesn't sit well with me at all. I think it's such a weak ass reason for someone to murder another person. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Well, how do you feel?
I think it's clear that he doesn't understand women and he doesn't know how to write for them. And I think we talked about this when we covered La Belle Sauvage, but a really fascinating thing about Philip Pullman is that he is not a consumer of fantasy or science fiction. He writes in the genre, but he does not read the genre, which is bizarre to me.
Yeah, kind of damning to me, actually. Because I'm like, how are you going to write something if you don't read it? That doesn't, to me, that goes against everything I've ever been told or like learned myself about writing. No, I mean, granted, he's slightly more successful than I am as a writer, but but I'm just saying, like, how dare I don't know. I think Philip Pullman seems like a fucking prick, if we're being honest. I mean, I've just slowly come to this realization, but like, how are you going to write something but then be too good to read any of the other works in that genre?
The thought of like a successful author having never read Harry Potter to me is like a bananas concept. Like, how full of yourself are you that you're like, I don't need to read that?
Exactly. Yeah, I think he's a fucking prick, but that's okay. I'm still excited, you know. Still excited to talk about his shit. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's cool.
It's cool. I mean, it's great. It's no big deal. By the way, John Parry Jopari has one other nom de plume. Do you happen to know what it is?
Oh, is it J.K. Rowling?
Oh my god. No. Though J.K. Rowling is a man. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, scandal.
It's true. No, he also goes by the name Stanislaus Grumman.
Honestly, that's a way cooler name. You should just go with that one 100%.
Oh, see, it's funny you say that because I thought it was the worst of the three names.
You would, because you're a basic bitch.
I like John Parry, and then obviously I love Jopari, even though I love to hate it. Yeah, but I thought Stanislaus Grumman. I don't know. That sounds like like a naval petty officer during World War II or something. Like, I'm just not into it.
I think it sounds like an exotic magician from a foreign land.
Really? In the Navy, though, right? Okay, and little known fact, little known to me before I listened to this book, but Jopari underwent trepanation to become a shaman. Do you know what trepanation is?
Girl, I don't.
Oh, it's funny because I think you've undergone it. It's when they drill a little hole into your skull so your brain can breathe.
Oh my God, I do know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you've said it, the memory of that has resurfaced.
Uh-huh. Are you touching the scar on your scalp right now?
I am. It's it never fully healed, so I can still feel the brain.
Oh my God, you're like the you're like the evil the mad scientist in The Nightmare Before Christmas. You know, the one who makes
Yeah, I do know, and I'm sexier than that, okay?
You're right, I'm sorry. You sure are. And you can walk.
Oh, but my head is approximately the same size.
Well, you know, there's that part where he opens up his skull and he massages his brains.
Yeah, you got to sometimes, and you gotta have, so it's fine.
Well, okay, but seriously. So if that was the deal, if you could become a shaman, but you had to let someone drill a hole, not into your brain, but just like cut a hole into your skull cap, would you do it?
You know,
like seriously.
I don't think that is something I would do if I'm living my authentic truth. I just have no interest in being a shaman.
I have interest in being a shaman.
You're going to let somebody drill?
Well, no, but here's kind of the way I think. I often think like, this is kind of maybe not a very good simile, but it's kind of like if Christians want me to worship their God, okay, he needs to be a God who's worth worshiping. You understand what I'm saying? So like the kind of God I would want to worship, one, would not hate gay people, two, would not hate women, and three, would like mostly want to focus along like the lines of love as opposed to fear, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, in a similar vein, magic, any kind of magic I want to do, the kind of magic I want to perform, probably would not involve cutting a hole in my skull.
Yeah. It's a pretty big bummer of a thing I don't want to participate in at any level.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, well, girl, you can keep that magic, and you can keep that God as well, as far as that goes. And I'll just go off and do my little magic and hang out with my little God, and I'll be perfectly happy over here. So short answer is no, I don't want to do that either. No.
Well, great. We've planned our lives.
Okay, so spoiler alert, I'm not going to say who dies, but two people die in this book. Do you remember who the two are, Morgie?
I don't, actually.
One of them is a pretty main character type person.
Okay.
I guess, should I just spoil it? Because we did say this is not a spoiler-free episode. But...
Yeah, skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this.
Yeah, spoilers coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lee Scoresby dies.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember that at all. I wonder if they're going to follow through with that in the show.
I don't know. I don't really think he had to die, frankly. So I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, because he's going to be played by Love is Love is Love is Love. What's his name?
Lin-Manuel.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes. So I assume they're going to want to keep him around for as long as possible.
Same, yeah.
But girl, when he done got shot, I have to tell you, as much as I don't like this series, and I don't give a shit about Lee Scoresby one way or the other, but the way it was written with him and his little demon, that little rabbit or whatever, the hair, I fucking cried. I did cry. It was sad.
Whatever, however you say it, they take everything to the next level of sadness. Like, so much of the heartstrings of this series is around that, because it's literally them wearing their heart on their sleeves, like their soul is external. And yeah, that shit's tough.
Yeah. Well, and like Lee Scoresby's demon, what was that little rabbit's name? I forget her name, Willow or something like that. But she's like a real smart-mouthed sort of demon.
Yeah.
And so like she gets real sweet at the end because like they're literally about to die. And she says all these nice things and then they like die side by side with their noses touching, I think. It's like so sad. It's really sad.
Dang, I don't remember that, but that sounds very tragic.
It's pretty tragic. And then the other death is old Jopari, and it's because that fucking witch done stabbed him.
Girl, it happens to the best of us.
But let me tell you, Will Parry, he looked in Will Parry's eyes. Will Parry saw his father for the first time in about, I don't know, 7 years or something. Thought his dad had been dead the whole time.
Missing, yeah.
Yeah, he went missing, and Will was looking for him, right? And then they locked eyes, and that bitch done stabbed him. Like, I think Jopari got to, like, talk to Will for, like, 10 minutes after he got stabbed, and that was it.
That sucks.
Let me tell you, girl, if ever there was a time to burn a fucking witch, it was then. But you know what? She killed herself right after, so, you know.
Ugh.
Yeah. I guess it's love. Something I wouldn't understand.
Yeah, it's only for grown-ups.
Yeah, whatever, Philip Pullman. Don't fucking know how to write love anyway, so. So, yeah, it was very confusing. I thought the first half was slow. Lyra was wretched, but Will's amazing. So overall, I give this book 3 out of 5 stars.
That's a pretty okay amount of stars, I think.
I mean, compared to the other two, I mean, if I was comparing it to like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, it's like a 2 out of 5. But I'm gonna compare it to like, compare like to like.
Well, I think it's a fair assessment. I think I would probably end up falling somewhere in the same range if I read it today. I think that the series as a whole is still worth reading because, number one, it's not that long. It's only 3 books. And then number 2, I think that because it was such a controversial young adult series that I think it's worth just like having the context of like what all the controversy is about so that you can, I just like to know. I like to like form my own opinion and be like, here's what I think. And it turns out everyone who's conservative is stupid.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Shocking news.
Well, and of course, all that controversy is going to get stirred back up with the new BBC series, obviously.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that with the prequel that he wrote, I think it's going to be more than just that book that we read, or the book that we covered last year. Because the series is called The Book of Dust, but the book was called La Belle Sauvage. So there's going to at least be a second one.
Oh, you true.
So yeah, he's doing okay right now. Like he's got a lot going on. So Philip Pullman's not hurting.
Yeah, Philip Pullman can suck my dick until he learns to write a good female character. Maybe he did it. Did you read La Belle Sauvage?
I did, and I liked it, but the main character was a boy.
I mean, well, that's fine. I mean, I don't mind male main characters, obviously, but I don't know. I just think it's a big failing on his part, but like, whatever. I've already said that. Do we have time, Morgie, to talk about Comic-Con?
Yeah, let's pepper in a little Comic-Con catch-up here at the very end.
Oh, okay. So now I'm behind the times because, as you said, I almost literally live under a rock. I live out in the middle of the forest these days. What the fuck's happening at Comic-Con? What's going on?
So one of the biggest announcements that came out that's relevant to this is they released a full-length trailer for His Dark Materials, which will be premiering on HBO this fall. So you can catch the full-length trailer for that show now. And it's a pretty long trailer, so there's like quite a bit of information in there. But most of the big news that came out, no shocker, is from the Marvel Universe, where they completely unveiled the entire next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starting with Black Widow, which comes out next spring.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. I've been waiting on a Black Widow movie for a very fucking long time.
Yeah, you and ScarJo. She's like about fucking time.
And it's going to be like a prequel movie, right? Or not prequel, but like set in the past.
Yeah, and I didn't catch the details of what it's going to be about, but it has to be, right, because spoiler alert, R.I.P. Black Widow.
Yeah, exactly. I assume people have listened to Endgame, or I mean, that is watched Endgame at this point. I would hope.
Right. So I have a timeline pulled up of what the entire Phase 4 is. I can read those to you.
Oh my God, please do. I'm so
Okay.
fascinated.
So it's the new Disney streaming.
Oh, something crazy's happening, Morgan. It sounds like you got crushed by a rock.
Oh, you say that a lot. That's so. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah. There was
That's
like some
strange.
thumping or I don't know, something.
Oh, strange. So there's going to be a new Disney streaming service. So half of Phase 4 actually takes place on that new streaming service because, of course, it fucking does. So Black Widow's a feature film for the movies, and
Okay.
the fall of 2020 on Disney streaming, we're getting The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a new series, starring everybody's favorite characters, Bucky and the Falcon.
Is that true, or were you being sarcastic? Are they really everyone's favorite characters?
I don't think so, but a lot of people
Okay.
love Bucky. A lot of people.
Really?
Yeah, a lot
Okay.
of people love the Winter Soldier.
Okay. Well,
Um,
that's fine.
And then the third thing that we'll be getting is a movie in November 2020, The Eternals, which will be featuring a lot of diverse casting.
Ooh, that sounds fascinating. Now is that going to be like Guardians of the Universe Eternals?
I
Like,
think
is it?
so. Yeah, I think so. And I think Angelina Jolie is one of the stars.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Angelina Jolie. Okay. Okay,
Uh,
I'm excited for that.
Phase 4 continues in February 2021 with another full-length feature film called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, where Marvel has their first Asian superhero.
What's his name?
Shang-Chi?
Well, girl, I'll tell you what. I'm glad he exists because representation is important. I never heard to know
Girl,
him
same.
or even one of his 10 rings. I know about a ring wraith, but I don't.
It's probably a Lord of the Rings thing. No big deal.
Oh, okay, great, fabulous. Okay.
And then coming in spring of 2021, we get another show on the Disney streaming service called WandaVision, which is a show about the Scarlet Witch and Vision.
Yes. Oh my God. Do you remember what was it last year? We were talking about something. I think it was last year, and I was like, look. I don't care about fucking Captain Marvel because I'm so sorry. I don't. The movie was fine, but I don't. I want a fucking Black Widow movie and I want a Scarlet Witch movie. And it's not quite a movie with the Scarlet Witch here, but it's close enough. I am so excited for that.
You're actually getting a double dose of Wanda because also later in 2021 is releasing Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, starring Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
And
Okay.
the second exciting thing about that movie, I think that movie has so much potential. The second exciting thing is that they're billing it as like a horror film. It's going to be like the first Marvel horror.
Oh fuck, that's so exciting. Okay, we're definitely gonna do an episode on that when that time comes.
It sounds very promising. I am very excited.
I know a lot of people were not living for the Doctor Strange movie, but I fucking loved it. I love all the Marvel magic.
Yeah, it was an interesting installment to the franchise, but I think it's Doctor Strange is such a great character. It was very enjoyable.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And then also following in 2021 behind Doctor Strange, we're going to get our third streaming show on Disney called Loki, which of course is about everybody's favorite character, Loki. And in Endgame, there's a lot of time travel in Endgame where they're like trying to go back and collect the stones or whatever. And they accidentally create a new timeline where Loki in the past steals the Tesseract, and this show follows Loki from that timeline.
Cool. And Loki's gonna be played by
Yep, Tom Hiddleston.
Wow. I'm really surprised he signed on to play that, actually, to be honest with you.
Girl, that Disney money has got to be plentiful. They are probably paying these people so much fucking money.
Well, it's smart. I mean, look, we know that the hardcore Disney fans are going to do the streaming service, but with all these big names and continuing Marvel content, I feel like maybe it'll be successful.
Yeah, it's totally possible. It's totally possible.
Wow.
Especially with coming right behind that show, also later in 2021, a show premiering called What If? And I have to tell you, I have no idea what that one's about, and I have no information. But it's a Marvel thing.
Oh, well, we need Andrew here for this. Professor Andrew, Dr. Andrew. But I think What If, there's a series of What If comics where it's just like alternate versions of everyone we know. So I suppose it's something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's happening in 2021. And then also later in 2021, fall of 2021, we're getting another Disney streaming show about Hawkeye, the show that no one asked for.
Yeah. Oh, and what's his face is playing it?
Jeremy Renner. As far as I know, everyone has signed on to reprise their roles.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, it could be good. I don't hate Hawkeye or anything, but who gives a shit about that, really?
Yeah, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
And then we have one more film rounding out phase 4 of the Marvel Universe, and I think this is going to be a really big one to end on, and that's November 2021. We'll get Thor, Love and Thunder, featuring a brand new revamped Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and introducing Natalie Portman as a Lady Thor, and also Valkyrie rising into her role as King of Asgard.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah, written and directed by Taika Waititi, who did Thor Ragnarok, which was really successful.
Yeah, which is, I think, the very best Marvel movie. Oh, well, I guess maybe with Endgame and Infinity War, maybe third best, but before the two finale movies, it was my favorite.
It's so good. And also, having a fourth Thor film is the first series to break the trilogy model for Marvel. It's the first one to have a fourth film.
Oh, interesting. Do you know, are the Guardians of the Universe going to be in it? Because wasn't that a fan theory or something that we had talked about?
There's definitely Guardians of the Galaxy. They're gonna make another one, but I guess it's not happening until after Phase 4 because they didn't announce it, and it's not in this timeline they release.
That's kind of surprising because it was such a popular part of, right? Weren't those movies really popular and kind of a breath of fresh air for the MCU?
Totally agree. And I wonder if maybe it'll come out either at the very end of 2021 and kick off Phase 5, or if it'll be, it'll be the very beginning of the next phase.
Interesting.
It's 2019, so this is 2 years of films. So if they started filming Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, it could take them at least 2 years to kind of wrap that all up. And I read that, James Gunn did the first Guardians so well. And then they replaced him on the second one because he had a Twitter controversy. But I read that they have him back for the third film.
Okay, good. Yeah, he never should have been fired for that. If we start firing people for what they said 10 years ago on Twitter, I don't know. What did he say, though? Do you remember?
I actually have no idea. I completely forgot.
I just want to make sure I'm not defending him, and then I look it up, and I'm like, oh, my God, fire the man, Let me see. Well, anyway. Well, actually, you know what? It doesn't even fucking matter. Because we have no power anyway, so who cares what I think about it?
So who cares?
I'm so excited for this lineup. Most of it is stuff I really want to see.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's really hard because this last phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was, of course, so strong with the Infinity arc. Like, it just had really high stakes. So it's like a lot to follow.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how the Disney streaming platform goes.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's going to be great or it's going to be terrible.
because remember we did the DC streaming or the DC subscription service or whatever. There were all those shows they had planned for that, and most of those shows have already been canceled.
Yeah, isn't that sad?
It is. Swamp Thing never had a chance.
Oh, so sad.
Speaking of Valkyrie being king, though, didn't you mention something that was like I remember my queer heart started to flutter.
Yeah. So on stage, when they were doing a Q&A panel, somebody asked Tessa Thompson, who plays Valkyrie, what is her first agenda item? I'm paraphrasing, but like, what's her first agenda item as King of Asgard? And she was like, well, Valkyrie's got to go find her queen. So the internet's all abuzz that Valkyrie is a queer representing character now.
That is so amazing. I am so excited for that.
Yeah.
And not to be repetitive, but it is about damn fucking time. It's about time.
Absolutely. So, yeah, just completely. Yeah. And she's such a good, strong character that, like, it's wonderful.
And she's, speaking of, we were talking earlier about Lyra and how she's unlikable. Valkyrie, I think, she's very charismatic, but she does lots of unlikable things.
She does. Yeah.
So it's like, she's a good example of, like, some people might look at that and be like, oh, she's unlikable. But to me, I'm like, maybe you think she's unlikable, but I like that bitch. She's my friend,
I like her too. She's a winner.
He's like strong and funny and gorgeous, and I'm very excited for that. Okay.
Yeah, so that's that. I'm kind of sad that movie's so far away because I really want to fucking see that movie, but I'm very excited for it.
Me too. I just have to decide if I'm gonna get the fucking Disney streaming. How much is that shit gonna be? $40 a month?
Idea. Yeah, if it's like $15, I might do it. But if it's like 30 or 40, like, no way.
Yeah. No, I can't be affording that, girl.
Girl, no.
I have to buy McDonald's.
That's a lot of burgers.
Girl, can I tell you, this McDonald's here in Clinton, Arkansas, where I live now, is so fucking good. And I know that's the nastiest thing you've ever heard. But, sometimes you find, like, a chain restaurant, like a location of, that's, like, really good. And the McDonald's here is really fucking good.
That sounds like great comfort food for you. I fully support you.
It is. After you spend like 8 hours in the sun, literally chopping down trees and like piling rocks, it's awesome to go get a Big Mac. It tastes different when you're doing that kind of work.
Yeah. You earned it.
Yeah. It's shocking. Well, thank you, by the way. I did earn it. And you know what? I earned 2 Big Macs.
Oh, girl. Watch those bowel movements.
Girl, I'm going to tell you a truth, and you don't tell anybody, because we've already stopped recording now, so no one else will ever know. I may have gone to McDonald's last week and gotten 2 Big Mac meals and ate them both in their entirety, including the drinks in the parking lot.
Dang, your bitch was hungry.
I was hungry, and let me tell you something. I'm still losing weight, because I've been doing all this physical activity.
Oh, she's so skinny.
I know, so fetch.
Mm-hmm.
So Morgie, do you have, my plug this week is not fucking McDonald's. I haven't sunk that low yet. Do you have a plug this week though?
That's a really great question. I just started watching the show. Oh, fuck that. I'm going to plug Veronica Mars. So Veronica Mars, is a really great show from back in the day that stars Kristen Bell and is super fantastic and is about, she's like a young detective and her dad's a PI and whatever. It's all noir, but it's also like funny and drama. It was fantastic and it got canceled and then they made a movie and it was pretty good. And then it's been gone for like 10 years or something. And then Hulu decided to reboot it. And they just dropped it early, like a week or 2 ago. Well, at this point, probably like a month ago. They were like, surprise, we're dropping it now. And it's fucking good. Like, sometimes when shit gets rebooted, you're like, that wasn't necessary, Lion King. or that was bad, Aladdin, but none of those feelings with this, because this reboot was fantastic. They nailed it. They crushed it. They brought back the original cast, and everybody still got it. Everybody still has great chemistry, and it was a really great way to spend a weekend that I wasn't feeling well, just binge watching that.
Okay, but here's a question. Was Kristen Bell eating shit during the reboot?
She ate zero shits, but she did look fantastic.
Oh, okay. Damn, and it's only on Hulu. I want to watch that shit.
Yeah.
I just canceled my Hulu subscription.
Yeah, they're they don't have as strong of original content streaming as Netflix, I don't think, but the things that they do well, like The Handmaid's Tale, and they have a couple things, they do really well, and they fucking nailed Veronica Mars, so I really hope it comes back for a second season.
Well, I tried to get rid of Netflix, but then they came out with all these exciting new things, including Stranger Things Season 3.
Yeah.
But also, like, the 5th season of Black Mirror, which fucking sucked. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, it was horrible. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and, like, all these things. So now I fucking have Netflix again, and now I'm going to have to get fucking Hulu again.
Girl. But I think the thing to do is, like, save it up till there's, like, 2 or 3 things you really want to watch, and just get it for, like, a month and then cancel it again.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to be doing, too, because, yeah. Well, I would like to plug, unlike Morgan, who is, like, so privileged, I'm going to plug something that is free, okay?
Great.
So there is a podcast called Blackout that is executive produced by and starring Rami Malek.
Oh.
Rami Malek of Queen and Mr. Robot fame. I think one of the most weirdly beautiful men in Hollywood, personally.
Yep.
Oh my God. I'm staying in a hotel and I just realized there are a child's handprints on the mirror. Oh, so creepy.
Oh, girl, you better get your money back.
Girl, I'm running out of this damn place. Anyway, and essentially Blackout is, there's one season of the podcast out now. I listened to it in one day, okay? I binged that shit.
Oh, wow.
Essentially, it's about a man who works at a radio station, little independent radio station, in a small town in, like, northern Ontario or someplace, like out in the boons in Canada. And all of a sudden, there's this huge blackout, and they're disconnected from the rest of the world. And it's about how his small town kind of survives. And then as the season continues, there begins to be some question of, like, well, okay, what caused this blackout? Was it, like, Russians? Like, is there, like, a world war going on? Or was it, oh, pardon me, I just burped on the podcast. That's perfect. Or was it, like, cyber terrorism? Or was it from something maybe closer to home? And it's sort of that question. It is so good. It's apocalyptic. It's scary in places. Rami Malek's voice is sexy, just like the rest of him. And I strongly recommend it. Blackout.
Fascinating. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
You're so welcome. I wish you hadn't burped in the middle of me talking about it. So rude.
Yeah, that was me.
You burped, not me. Okay, perfect. Speaking of Blackout, I'm about to black out, but where should people find us if they want to hear more of us rambling?
Girl, to be honest, like, wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, it's probably an app, and you should go click subscribe so you never miss a moment. And while you're in there, please rate and review us.
Yes, because, 5 stars only. Don't fuck around with anything less than that. Who do you think we are? And if you review it, most of the different apps, once they get reviews, they'll pop the podcast up and show them to more people. So if you can spare us some time to write a review, that would be awesome.
Yes, and thank you. And then when you're done with that, of course, visit every social media platform where you can find us at Beauty and the Bitch or at B&B Cast. Check us out, y'all.
Facebook and Twitter and WordPress and YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah, all those motherfuckers. We everywhere.
And then we're also personally on Instagram. Morgan is at Morganized Mess.
Yeah, that's right. And you can find Mickey at Parker_Homestead.
That's the truth. Oh my God. I just said, oh my God, apropos of nothing. I was looking at that child's handprint again, to be honest with you.
Then you said it for a very good reason, baby. We better get out of here so you can go do a seance.
Girl. Okay, pray for me. I'll talk to you soon.
Sending prayers up.
Oh, girl. Okay, bye, BBs.
Bye, we love you. Pray for Mick.
Oh, pray for me.
Do
you have a home? Beauty in the Bitch.
You look. Beauty in the Bitch. Beauty in the Bitch.